I'm going to share with you the 5 strategies that I've used with hundreds of enduro races to get rid of arm pump. Without riding every day like the pros do, without like rolling a brick up on a string, without taking a whole heap of expensive supplements, without buying like fancy arm pump gimmick devices, without getting chopped up and getting surgery, all while only getting on the bike and riding once per week. So before we get into the meat of the video, the first thing we need to understand is what is arm pump. And arm pump is the overuse of the forearm muscles, so our grip muscles. And so this is no different for any other part of the body. If you go to the gym and you do lots of squats, your legs will get a similar feeling to what you feel in your arms. If you do a whole heap of bicep curls, your bicep will get the same feeling. It's about a muscle group being overused to the point of failure where it just can't go anymore. So it's got a level of strength and endurance that's here, and we're pushing it there, right? We're pushing it past what it's actually capable of, and that's when it starts to lose its strength, and that's what happens with arm pump. Our forearm muscles get overworked and overused through riding, and we can't hold on, we can't use the controls. It makes it very hard to be able to ride and to be able to hang on. So that's what we're trying to combat, and that's what arm pump is. Now, there's 2 types of arm pump. So we're going to get into this video here from Yami Solar Movies, who's done a great job with putting some cross-country enduro highlights together. This is from 2022. So when these guys are riding, we'll wait till we get here. We can see, obviously, the rider's got his hands holding on, he's got his legs holding on. Everything's working really, really hard to be able to keep their body in position on the bike. What we're aiming for is we're aiming for 80% of the work on the bike to be done by the major muscle groups in the body. So that's his legs, his quads, his hamstrings, his bum, his core, his upper body, his shoulders, all those big muscle groups in the body. They should be doing 80% of the work on the bike. 20% or less of the work should be done through the forearms and the hands. And the reason is because they're just small muscles. They're small muscles that aren't that strong in comparison to your legs. If you look at my forearms here, look at the size of them. Okay, if I get up on my chair here, have a look at the size of my legs. Okay, like they're very, very different in size, very different in power, very different in strength. My legs are way stronger. Everyone's legs are a lot stronger than what their tiny forearm muscles are. So as you can see, as they're riding through here, it should be all legs, 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 mostly lower body, like upper back. The big powerhouse muscles are doing 80% of the work. 20% of the load should be going through the forearms. So in saying that, there's 2 types of arm pump that riders get. There's type 1 and type 2. Type 1 arm pump is where riders get arm pump a lot at the start of a ride. So you can see for these guys, they just started off their ride or race, and that's when, if you've got type 1 arm pump, that's when your arm pump will be the worst. You'll go out and ride at the start, it'll be really tight and really stiff, and it actually gets better as you continue to ride. So the other type is type 2 arm pump. So type 2 arm pump is the opposite. So let's say these guys, or let's say for this race, let's say they've been riding for like 2 hours, and their arm pump starts to come on about 2 hours, and as they keep riding, it gets worse and worse and worse. So at 2.5 hours, it's worse than where it was at 2 hours, but they might not necessarily get it at the start. It's something that progressively gets worse as they keep riding and as they keep pushing. So got some notes here to cover a few things. Type 1 arm pump there's 2 main causes. Is number 1, not warming up properly. So if we have a look at these guys, it's probably reasonably cold there. Some of these guys have jackets on, so maybe it is a bit fresh. I'd say it would be, because these guys have got beanies on. If it's cold, which your muscles are going to be regardless of the weather, and you go and try and exert them at 100% straight away, which is what we do when we go and ride the bike, then you're just setting yourself up for drama. Because when the muscles are cold, they don't contract and relax very well. And when they don't contract and relax very well, that means your muscles don't have their normal level of strength. So that's why when you go to the gym, generally you do a warm-up. Okay, you might go on the rowing machine for a little bit, you might do some body weight squats before you get into your heavier squats, you might do some lighter squats before you start doing your heavier squats. And that's to get your muscles working. That's to make sure that they're not cold, they're warm, they can contract and relax well, and you can get the maximum level of strength out of your body. However, when we go and race and we go and ride, a lot of that warming up stuff that we do in the gym and we do with our training tends to go out the window. And so we go and ride a bike, like here, these guys are riding 100, 110 kilo plus bikes, plus they've got their body weight on top. They might be 80 or 90 kilos. They've got about 180 to 200 kilos out there wrestling around. And what happens is a lot of guys will get out there and start racing, and whoa, nearly lost the Red Bull sign. And what will happen is their body's not warm. They're going from zero, sitting in the pits or sitting on the bike in the chute, getting ready to get up there and go, and then trying to wrestle around 200 kilos. And you wouldn't do that in the gym, right? But for some reason, we all do it when we get on the bike. I was guilty of that when I was riding and racing as well. It's like, you're driving in the car, it takes a long time to get to the track, you're excited to get to the track, and then you just get on the bike and go. More so on a race day. So that's where you implement a warm-up. So you can get your body moving. You can do something like 3 sets of 10 squats, 3 sets of 10 push-ups, just nice and easy to get your blood flow moving in your body. You can even do like simple stretches and movements with your forearms specifically, where you can help to promote a little bit of blood flow, but more so we're getting your muscles warm. That's what we're working on, is getting them warm so that they can contract and relax and operate at their peak level of strength. And that's how we do that. The second cause that will cause type 1 unpump is you're just uncomfortable on the bike. So let's say you get out there and you're doing, say, like this is more of like an enduro cross section, right? And let's say you get out on the bike and you're not comfortable in those conditions. Let me get my cursor back. Let's say you're not comfortable in these conditions. And so these two are getting at it, aren't they? Let's say you're not comfortable riding in those types of conditions. What's going to happen is you're naturally going to start to tighten up and be tense on the bike. And because you're tense on the bike and you're very stiff and very rigid, you're not going to ride the bike in a relaxed state. When you're not in a relaxed state on the bike and you're holding on for dear life, of course your muscles are going to pump up. It's like getting your muscles and just going like squeezing and tensing as hard as you possibly can like that for as long as you possibly can. Of course they're going to get tired because you're contracting your muscles and you're not letting go and you're not letting them have a break and you're not letting them relax. So if you're going through, say, sections like this, where it's quite dusty and it's very more rocky, exposed, not much of a line there, and you're not used to riding in those conditions or you're not comfortable in those conditions, then you're naturally going to hold on for dear life. And that's just natural from your body. When you don't feel comfortable on the bike, you're going to tighten up and be very stiff and very rigid. Likewise, when you feel comfortable on the bike and you're used to these conditions, so let's say you're riding this type of stuff all the time, you're going to be a lot more relaxed on the bike, which means that your muscles aren't going to be doing a lot of work that they shouldn't be. So that's type 1. Again, so if you get arm pump at the start of a ride and it gets better. The reason that it gets better is because you get more comfortable on the bike and your muscles start to warm up as you keep riding. That's why type 1 arm pump gets better. So the solution for that cause there is just getting comfortable in the conditions that you're riding in and making sure that you're prepared. Type 2 arm pump is probably where a lot of you are going to sit. So type 2 arm pump, again, is where it gets worse as you keep riding. Okay, it might come on later in the race and then it gets worse and worse and worse. There's 5 main causes that we're going to go through here because it could be any of these. Now, again, what we're trying to keep is we're trying to keep that 80-20 ratio as we're riding. We're trying to keep 80% of the work here in these big powerhouse muscles, and we're trying to keep 20% or less of the work going through your forearms. And again, the reason is because of the size of the muscle groups. So if we look at this rider here, the size of his legs and his calves and his quads and his hamstrings and his glutes and his core and that, they're huge, big powerhouse muscles that have a lot of strength and power. Forearms don't. Forearms and wrists and hands have tiny little muscles that are nowhere near as strong. So we want to maintain that ratio all the way through the race, that 80-20 principle. Okay, and the reason that riders get arm pump is because they don't maintain that 80-20 all the way through the race. Something happens that causes that ratio to change, which means that their arms do more and more and more work as they go through the race, and those big powerhouse muscles are doing less and less and less. And that's what we're going to investigate now. The first thing, the first cause, let me just scroll down here on my other notes so I can make sure that I cover everything. The first one's strength. So think about the weight of these bikes, right? So have a look at this bike here. The bike's probably 110 kilos. If you look at, like I say, maybe a 450 with standard, and then with all your gear on it, maybe you've got like an oversized fuel tank, maybe you've got some steg pegs on there, maybe you've got a steering dampener, whatever other additional stuff, maybe you've got desert racing tires if you're doing desert racing. You might have 110 kilos plus there, right? Plus you've got the weight of the rider. So think about how much this rider might weigh. He might weigh 80 kilos, right? Plus he's got his camelback on, and he's got his boots on, and he's got his helmet on, and he might have an Under Armour on, and all the whatever else he's got on, knee braces, might be up around the 90 kilo mark. So if he's got a bike that's 110 here, and then his rider weight is 90, that's 200 kilos that he's got to wrestle around for 3+ hours or however long he's riding for. That's a lot of weight. So the stronger this rider can get himself, the lighter he can get the bike to feel. The lighter he can get the bike to feel, the less energy he'll use when he's out there riding. So let's have a look at these guys going to this first corner. Cool. So it's not about being strong or not strong. It's not like, oh, I lay bricks for a living, so I'm pretty strong. Or, oh, yeah, I think I'm pretty strong because I can, bench press 50 kilos. All of that doesn't matter. The stronger you can get yourself, the lighter the bike's going to feel. And the lighter it feels, the less energy you're going to use. The less energy you use means you can maintain that 80-20 ratio. You can keep your big muscle groups doing most of the work, okay, and these smaller muscle groups in your forearms doing a lot less of the work. The problem comes when you don't have the strength and the endurance in your body in those big muscle groups. And so, for example, if your legs start to get tired, let's see if we can see someone standing up here as I go around through this section. So let's say for this rider here, excuse me. Okay, he's a bit, let's say for this rider here, it's a bit easier. He's using his legs a lot to be able to grip on the bike, okay, and he's got his upper body in the right position. And so that means he's got the least amount of effort and load going through his forearms. Once he runs out of strength here through his legs and through his upper body and through his core, so let's say he doesn't have the strength that he needs, he should be a lot stronger, and he's on the weaker side, that means the bike starts to get heavy really quick in the race, okay, or much earlier in the race than what it should. What happens then is these legs start to stop working, starts to sit down more, he's not gripping onto the seat as much, his core isn't keeping his upper body upright, okay, his elbows are starting to drop, he's doing all the things on the bike he should be doing, he's not doing. What that means is 80% of the work and load is no longer going through this part of the body. And because this 80% or this part of the body isn't taking up that 80%, those percentages need to be taken up from the hands or from another area of the body, which is the hands, because they're the thing that's actually holding him on the bike. So if his legs aren't gripping him onto the bike, something else has to be gripping onto the bike, right? And that's where the hands and arms start to take over and do more of the work. And that's where we see that ratio change as riders get through the race. They might start off with 80-20, but then they get 2 hours into the race and it's like 50-50, right? And it shouldn't be 50-50. These big powerhouse muscles should be doing majority of the work, 80% at least, all the way through the race, because they are the big powerhouse muscles. These little forearm tiny muscles and wrist muscles and hand muscles and finger muscles are not designed to be able to throw around 200 kilos. The legs, the core are able to do that. So it is frustrating, okay, when you do go to the track and you start getting arm pump and you've tried a whole heap of different things, because then you can't ride how you want to ride, right? You're just a passenger at that point. You're just trying to ride to finish the race and trying to survive rather than actually riding and getting the results that you can get. So the way that you fix it is getting yourself strong. Use exercises like deadlifts, back squats, overhead presses, bent over rows. Exercises that you can use with a weight bar, that you can really load up and get yourself stronger, and that use a lot of muscle groups in one exercise. I'm going to show you an example of this. If we hop over to here, this is an example of a squat. So this is just a body weight squat, right? But you can see here, this anatomy site lights up the muscles that are most used. So it's got like the calves, the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, the core, all those big powerhouse muscle groups that we're using when we're on the bike. And if we add a barbell on your back and do a back squat, that's also going to light up all of these muscles up here as well and get them all working in one exercise and get them really strong like you are on the bike. We want to avoid exercises that are isolation exercises, which isolate like a small amount of muscle groups. So see with the bicep curl here, it mainly uses the bicep, but that's not how your body works on the bike. Okay, your body doesn't just use one muscle group when you're riding, it uses multiple muscle groups. So if we go back here and we have a look at some riders, wait till we get a bit more of a close-up, is what you'll see is that the whole body is working on the bike. Okay, we've got a lot of muscles working. Let's go forwards here. We've got a lot of muscles working here. Okay, all these muscles are working from head to toe, similar to how we are in the squat. Okay, we're not doing any movement or exercise on the bike that resemble anything even close to a bicep curl, and that's what makes riding so hard. Okay, everything is working all at once while we're riding. That's why it's so taxing. When you can fix this and you can get on top of it and you can get yourself a lot stronger, riding is a completely different story. You get to the end of the race and you see everyone else struggling and dying and you're able to keep pushing through. And that's what really brings out the enjoyment in your riding, because you're able to push when the other guys aren't pushing. And there's this weird sense of satisfaction that comes from when you see everyone else dying on the track and you're able to keep pushing and able to pick up spots. It feels bloody awesome. But you've got to put the work in with the strength, and takes time to be able to do that. So as I'm doing this video, it's we're October, nearly November now. Like, this is really the time to knuckle down and start building your strength and getting ready for next season, to make sure that you can make that 200 kilo package feel as light as possible, so you can wrestle the bike around and make sure that you have a good season. The second area is cardio. So cardio is important, okay, or cardio can cause arm pump, because cardio is our ability to be able to get oxygen to our muscles to be able to do the exercise that we're doing. So in other words, to be able to ride the bike. If you're not very good at getting oxygen into your body and getting it to your muscles and getting it to your brain, what's going to happen is your muscles are going to lose strength and power. When they lose strength and power, that means you don't have that same level of strength anymore. You might have started off with this level of strength, but it drops to this level. And so because it drops, again, what happens is, bit of bad luck in the first corner. What happens is we lose that ratio of lower body to forearms. That 80-20 ratio that we're looking for starts to disappear, because again, if we're losing our endurance and losing our strength in our muscles, what that means is that our legs aren't able to grip onto the bike as much. We're not able to use our core to keep us in position on the bike and to be able to hold us on there. So our body has to do something else to be able to keep us on the bike, and that means we hang on for dear life. We use our forearms and we use our hands a lot more than what we should. Again, this leads to getting arm pump, not being able to hang on, not enjoying your time on the bike, and just really being in the doghouse when it comes to being able to ride how you want to ride. Like, it sucks to be able to go to a race. I know what it was like when I was racing, to go to a race and not be able to ride how you want to ride. And this is something that's completely preventable by, you can get in the gym, okay? Do some intervals on the rowing machine, do some intervals on the treadmill, do some intervals on a cycling bike, do some intervals on an assault bike, do some intervals on a ski erg. Like, there's a whole heap of things that you can do to build your cardio and get it better, so that you can keep your strength all the way through the race, have that endurance. That's why you need a mix of strength and you need a mix of cardio, which is your endurance, and you need them paired together. Got some interesting ads coming up today, don't we? When you can do that, you'll enjoy your riding a lot more. The third one's nutrition, okay, so food. The reason that food's important is because food is your fuel for your muscles, okay? So it's like your bike. You put no fuel in the bike, doesn't matter how good the bike is, it's not going to go. Same with your body. And so that's when you start to lose strength and lose endurance again. And it's all about that 80-20 ratio. You're not able to maintain that 80-20 ratio, because when your body has no fuel and there's nothing there for it to be able to work, again, your big powerhouse muscles that need fuel to be able to work properly are not working. We're not gripping with the legs. So coming in here, we're not gripping with the legs. We haven't got our elbows up. All the things that you should be doing, you're not doing. Which means, again, the arms are not doing their 20% work. They're doing way more than that. They're doing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% until you've just got like a rider hanging off the back of the bike and, arms hanging on doing 100% of the work. And that's usually when you're going to hit the deck and come off. Again, for this, carbs are your primary fuel source for your riding and racing. So you can use things like carb gels would be the first thing that I would look at, is making sure that you're getting 30 to 50 grams of carbs in for every hour of riding that you do. You can use sports drinks, you can use carb gels, you can use fruit. It doesn't matter what you use, as long as you make sure that you're getting simple carbs in and you're sticking to that 30 or 50 grams, maybe even more per hour of riding, to make sure that your body is fueled. Your muscles need fuel. Doesn't matter about all the training you've done in the gym. Even if you're the fittest person in the gym or strongest person in the gym, if you're not fueled and you don't have actually food in your body to be able to keep up the pace and the intensity that you want to out on race day, it's not going to matter. It's not going to actually show. So food has to be dialed in. When you can do that, then you're going to have a consistent fuel tank to be able to maintain your strength, maintain your endurance all the way through the race, and enjoy the race a lot more. The fourth one is flexibility and mobility, okay, specifically of the forearms. I find this is the one that people jump to a lot, is they just start stretching and trying to move their wrists around a lot, trying to get them more mobile. Stretching can be helpful. It can help you to be able to increase your strength through your forearms and through your wrists while you're riding, especially when you're getting in different positions and you've got your elbow up and you've got your muscles in full range of motion. It can definitely be helpful and reduce a bit of the load. What I've found over the years is that most of the time, the flexibility and stretching is really, really helpful for people that have really tight forearms. Either they might have a job where they're doing like lots of drilling or lots of lifting or lots of like bricklaying or something like that. Maybe their forearms are really, really tight and not very flexible. That can be helpful. The other one that I've found it's been helpful for is people that have had wrist injuries. So I found this. I had 3 broken arms over the years that I was racing. And same thing happens. It's like you get your arm put in a cast, it gets a bit weaker, you favour the other side, it's not as strong, and the muscles start to tighten up. That's where it can also be a problem, and that's where stretching can be helpful to make sure that you've got equal range of motion and flexibility left to right. So you can do simple stuff like, stretches like this. You can do them like on the end of I'll see if I can get it here, on the end of the desk and like put a little bit of weight on it. You can control the weight a little bit more, and you can do the same on the opposite side as well. Like a starting point, you could do like 2 lots of 1-minute stretches on each side and do them a few times a week to be able to help to even things out and hopefully improve a little bit of your strength in different positions on the bike as well when it comes to your forearms. That one though, I don't harp on about that one too much because for most people that's the one they jump to, but it's usually not the problem. Again, the 80-20 ratio is the thing that we're chasing, and that's for majority of people, 99% of people, is they just can't maintain that 80-20 ratio. Okay, that's the thing that you've got to try and work on, and that comes from those first 3, the strength, the cardio, and the nutrition. The last one is bike setup. So the reason that bike setup's important is because this bike setup is what will allow you to be able to be comfortable or not comfortable on the bike. When you're comfortable on the bike, so let's have a look at these conditions here, like very sandy, right? If you're comfortable on the bike's set up properly, and you've ridden in these conditions before, you probably love this. You're probably like really relaxed on the bike. You're like, woo, this is fun, right? What that means is that your muscles aren't very tense. You're letting the bike do a lot of the work. You're getting into the positions that you need to. Okay, you're not working overly hard. You're working hard, but your body is not cooked within 30 seconds of riding this type of stuff. If you're riding in these types of conditions where it's really, really sandy and the bike's not set up properly for you and you're not used to riding in these conditions, you're going to feel very, very uncomfortable. It's going to feel very unsafe for you because you don't know how the bike's going to react. You don't know what's going to happen. Because you don't know how the bike's going to react and you don't know what's going to happen, you hold on a lot tighter. It's just a natural instinct from our body. When we feel unsafe and we don't feel relaxed and we don't feel comfortable in the conditions that we're riding or on the bike that we're riding, we tighten up and we grip a lot tighter, and that means all of our muscles start to pump up. It's not just our forearms, everything is working overtime because we're very stiff and very rigid rather than being relaxed and just working with the bike and getting into the positions that we know we need to get into. So that's when you come into positions like this where it's sandy, where you're really not having a fun time at all. Right? Whereas you can look at like this rider here at the front, like he's very relaxed, like he's working with the bike, they're moving quickly, okay, moving through the sand, but then as we just saw before with those other guys, like they're chopping and changing all over the place and really having a tough time. They're the conditions that are going to cause you to have a lot more arm pump. So when it comes to bike setup, it's just making sure your bike is set up for the conditions that you're riding in. If you ride tracks like this where it's quite sandy and quite loamy, and you've got your bike set up for your body weight, and you've got set up for your riding conditions and for your speed and riding ability, then you're good to go. Okay. What we're looking for here, the thing that's really going to cause arm pump, is if like you've got a sand setup and you're riding on hard pack, or you've got a hard pack setup and you're riding on sand, or you've got a supercross setup and you're riding motocross, so you've got a motocross setup, you're riding supercross. That's what we're looking for. Like if you've got a bike that is 100% not set up for you, it's set up for someone that's 110 kilos and you weigh 80 kilos, you're going to have trouble with arm pump. You're going to get head shake because you're just going to feel out of control all the time. Because you feel out of control, again, your forearms are just working overtime to try and hold you on the bike because you've just got a death grip on the thing because you're like, shit, I'm going to come off and hurt myself. And natural instinct is we don't want to come off and we don't want to hurt ourselves. So once you can get your bike set up properly, and you know how to be able to ride the conditions that you want to ride properly, you're going to be a lot more relaxed. So that comes down to skills. Maybe you need to be able to get a riding coach to help you with your skills on the bike. Usually a good test for that though is like if you find that your arm pump comes on after say 2 hours, then it's probably not a skills problem. You've probably got the skills there. I find for a lot of the guys that we work with, they've got the skills there. Like everyone can always improve their skills, but the skills are there to some degree. The thing that is holding them back is the strength, the fitness, the nutrition. That starts to creep in and affect their skills because they get tired, they get fatigued, all of that stuff that they did skill-wise, they know what to do, but their body's not letting them do it anymore. They know they need to have their elbows up. They know they need to have their body in a certain position. They know they need to grip with their legs. Okay, they know they need to be standing. They know all of this stuff. Their body's not letting them do it. That's the thing that's actually holding them back. So they're the 5 areas. Now, what I'm going to jump to now is there's just a few common things that have come up over the last, well, I'd probably say the whole time I was racing. So the whole 14 years of racing motocross, there was a whole heap of things that came up that were supposed to be arm pump fixes. And then I've had a whole heap of other stuff that's come up over the last 10 or 15 years, or over the last 10 years that I've been coaching, in terms of like fixes for arm pump. And I just find a lot of them are misleading and putting you guys in a position where you're not sure what you need to do. It's kind of like if you've seen those Ab King Pro ads for people that on TV, you know, the Ab King Pro machine that promises you that you're going to get a 6-pack from buying this machine. And it's just not going to happen. There's a lot of other things that need to happen outside of just buying that machine. And that's the same with arm pump. So hopefully we can break down a few of those myths, and so you guys can get rid of your arm pump and enjoy your racing a bit more. So the first thing that comes up is arm pump surgery, okay? And that seems to come in and out of fashion over the years. So I just want to look at this site here. This is more for MotoGP, but same thing. It just talks about arm pump surgery and what it is and how the surgery works, okay? So arm pump. What is arm pump? The medical term is chronic exertional compartment syndrome, and it's what's called an overuse injury. Okay, so exactly as we talked about, it's the forearms being overused. It's not an injury. It's not something you get unless you've like had a foot peg go through your arm, or you've drilled a hole through your arm or something like that. It's not an injury. Okay, it is called an injury, but it's an overuse injury. Okay, it's the muscles and muscle groups being overused for prolonged periods of time, repetitively, past the point of what they're designed for. So it's characterized by the onset of severe pain within minutes of riding and dissipates 20 minutes after stopping. Cool. How does it occur? We have a non-stretchy membrane encasing our muscles called the fascia. So we have it's like a web, I'd say like a thick spider web that's over the top of our muscles, okay, that is called our fascia. So putting demand on the muscle increases the blood flow, since the muscle can increase up to 20% in volume and the fascia is not elastic, it gets tight inside, constricting the blood flow. So what happens is we've got a muscle, okay, and then we've got this fascia over the top, okay, this webbing. And what happens is as we use the muscles and they start to pump up and they're getting blood flow into them like we do with any muscle, what happens is those muscles start to expand until it gets to the point where it's expanded so much that it can't expand anymore because it's got that fascia over the top, and that's when you start to get that tightness. Happens in other areas of the body as well. Like if you do like a whole heap of bicep curls, your bicep curls start to get really tight and feel fatigued. Same with your calf muscles or your leg muscles or your hamstrings or glutes, any other muscle group, okay? There's a band of fascia that runs all the way through our body around muscle groups, and that's what happens, okay? So that's that. How is it diagnosed? So they do compartment pressure testing, which can be done to see if they need arm pump surgery or not, and the arm pump is called a fasciotomy. So what they do is they put a slit here, this is a good demonstration here, they put a slit in the fascia, okay, and what that's supposed to do is to make that fascia, give it a little bit more space. So what that means, we've got love hearts. What that means is that muscle can swell or can take on a little bit more blood flow and get a little bit bigger and use a little bit more, theoretically, okay? If we have a look here, I'm not going to go through it all, but here's some of the complications. There's no, of course, like all things, there's no guarantee the procedure will work, and in some cases, a slit created actually heals along with the other tissue. There's also, I've heard of cases and riders that we've worked with who have had like nerve damage and things like that from the surgery itself, which makes the problem even worse. And they start getting pins and needles through the hand, which is a bigger problem to fix once you've got nerve damage. There's the scar tissue. Obviously, there's the time off. I think it's about 6 weeks recovery. These are all the lists of riders that have had it. The interesting thing, though, is with the riders that have had it, you talk about them having it, and then some of them have to go back and have it again. Some of them have had complications with it. Okay, a whole heap of stuff. There's a few different stories here of different riders in MotoGP that have had it. Cool. Take with that what you will. Okay, so ultimately what's happening is the surgery is trying to allow those muscles to expand a little bit more, or to be able to get a little bit more blood flow into that area, which theoretically should give you a bit more endurance. However, the real problem there, again, is that 80-20 ratio, right? We want 80% of the work done through those big muscle groups in our body that we just saw. So let's go back here and let's have a look. We want 80% of the work going through here, whether we're doing MotoGP, Enduro, Motocross, it doesn't matter. 80% of the work should be going through these big muscle groups, 20% going through the arms. Because even if we allow more blood flow and we allow the forearms to work a little bit more, that's still not fixing the underlying issue, which is the arms are doing way more work than what they're designed for. We need to have these big muscle groups doing most of the work to be able to grip onto the bike. So that's the surgery side. The other one is magnesium. So a lot of riders will say, oh, you need to have, you need to get more magnesium and you're just losing magnesium. That can be the case. Magnesium is responsible for muscles contracting and relaxing. It can just make your muscles more relaxed in general if you are stiff and rigid, or maybe your body has been under a lot of stress. There will be like this level of tension in your muscles, and magnesium can help to relieve that. Similar to like a massage, you can do like a bath with like Epsom salts, things like that to help your body to be able to relax. By no means is it a quick fix for arm pump though, right? Because again, we want to maintain that ratio of 80-20. That's the thing that we're chasing. With all of the solutions that we're looking for, it's that 80-20 ratio. How do we keep that 80-20 ratio all the way through the race to be able to perform at our best? So there's magnesium. The other one that comes up is forearm strong, which was quite popular but seems to have died off in popularity over the years. How this works is it's got this capsule thing there that you slide your arm through, and then it's got the screw on top, which is this part here, which goes into the fascia or into the muscle, and then you move your muscle through full range of motion. If you want to be able to get the same benefit of this without spending $109, simply all you can do is get your thumb, okay, and push your thumb into the area that you're trying to work on or trying to break down, and do circles with your wrist. Okay, it's literally exactly the same thing. There's nothing too special about this that's going to get you some magical result. How this does work though is it does help to break down fascia. So if there's a lot of fascia build up, or it's quite tight and stiff, you can definitely use this device. It just makes it easier. Instead of getting your thumb in there, it might make it easier to get into certain positions, so maybe it is helpful. Otherwise, you can go to a massage therapist and get them to massage them. Otherwise, you can use like a mobility ball and push a mobility ball into certain areas, or a golf ball, and put your arm through full range of motion. Again, what we're trying to do here, and it even says down here as well, is trying to break down, where is it? Okay, so here. Athletes who suffer from arm pump can also use the forearm strong for relief. These athletes are experiencing an increase in blood volume in their forearms from their activity, okay, because the forearms are being worked really hard from riding on the bike. Because the space in the forearm compartment is limited by the fascia, excess blood flow causes constriction, okay, a tight forearm and a weakened grip. Regular use of the forearm strong expands the space in the forearm compartment and stretches the forearm muscles, both of which create more space. This allows for additional blood volume without the constriction. Okay, again, like those things are true. That's accurate. But the thing is, by trying to get our grip better and trying to get our forearm muscles better, we're making this much improvement to our arm pump, right? Because again, we need that 80-20 ratio. That's what we're looking for. So this might get your forearms doing 2 or 3% less work, okay? It may help, it may be beneficial. But if you can get your legs, okay, doing a whole heap of more work, instead of your arms going from doing 20% of the work at the start of the race and then doing 60% at the start of the race, if you can get your legs and the rest of your body working, then that's a whole, what's that, 20, 30, 40, 50, that's a whole 40% there that you can save. It's going to make a massive, the strength, the nutrition, the cardio, if that is the problem, okay, and we're not looking at bike setup or rider skill, if those things are the problem and your arm pump gets worse and worse and worse as you keep riding through the day, then they're the big things that you need to work on. There's no amount of this stuff. Like, what are you going to do? Pull over every 30 minutes and start doing stretches to open up, create more space in your forearm. You just can't do that, right? It doesn't work like that. So that's the forearm strong, which has been another popular one. Bike setup, which is what we just talked about. Again, get your bike set up, get your suspension set up, make sure it's set up for your height, weight, type of riding that you do, and riding ability. That doesn't mean you need to go and spend 10 grand on A-kit suspension. It just means your bike needs to be set up for you. If it's set up for a 100 kilo rider and you're 70 kilos, it's not going to work. Rolling a brick up on a string. This was an old school one that I don't see much of anymore. There was that one where you had the string and you had the brick and you'd roll it up. You used to see a lot of pros do it back in the day, maybe like in the 2000s, but you don't see riders doing it anymore. The reason that can be effective is it's really good at warming up the forearm muscles, right? Because think about it, you're doing an exercise rolling up the brick on the string. It's not doing anything special. It's just getting those muscles warm. And as we talked about at the start for our type 1 arm pump, when the muscles are cold, they don't contract and relax very well. They don't have their strength. We have to warm them up. So it can be a great, it's not going to get rid of arm pump, but it can be a great tool for being able to warm your forearms up, especially if you've got type 1 arm pump and you need to get them warm at the start of the run. Arm pump supplements. All right, I've seen a lot of these companies come and go over the years. I can tell you that over my 10 years of coaching races and getting them race fit, a lot of supplement companies have been like, hey, we get rid of arm pump, we get rid of this, we get rid of that. And then they disappear. Because I actually went to find a few of them on here to show you guys, and I couldn't even find them. They don't even have websites anymore. So there was one that I found here, which is called Arm Pump. There must be different rules in the UK, but in Australia, you have to have like the ingredients of certain products on the pack to say what's actually in there. Whereas I don't think they have to here in the UK because I couldn't see anything. Pretty much what this says is it says it's like a whole oils. Here, a superhero in a bottle. Motivate Arm Pump is a unique blend of essential oils designed to soothe and relax your muscles before an event, such as racing or training. So usually they're like magnesium, essential oils, as it says there, things that are going to help your muscles to be able to relax. There might even be some stuff that's like deep heat in there, which is kind of like a pain relief type cream. Again, it's going to be helpful, but it's not going to fix the problem. There was the nationals that I was racing at, I think it was in Mafra, where I rode 2 classes, and it was so many ruts. Not used to the riding not used to the conditions that I was riding, okay? Because here where I am in Australia, we don't have tracks like that, okay, that have that many ruts. Really uncomfortable on the bike. Had ridiculous arm pump, okay? And I was putting like deep heat and all these sprays. Even with all the deep heats and the sprays and the stretching and all that, it didn't get rid of the arm pump. And the reason it didn't get rid of the arm pump is because I was just uncomfortable on the bike. Okay, even at that stage, it wasn't even anything to do with the fitness or the nutrition or anything like that. It's just I was really uncomfortable on the bike. My bike probably wasn't set up for those conditions, and I didn't know how to ride those conditions. So I could have, put a shit ton of this stuff on there. I could have brought 10 bottles of it and poured it on there, and I still would have had the same problem. It was not the actual fix. The other one's the arm pump diet. I couldn't really find anything there on the arm pump diet. Again, it's one of those ones that's like was popular for a little bit and then it's disappeared. So who knows where it even came from? I don't even have a website anymore. There's no diet that's going to get rid of arm pump. From what I saw from the arm pump diet that has been available before, from what I remember, it was more keto-based and fat-based. And so what happens is they take the carbohydrates out of the diet and you can only eat fats and eat protein. And that does get rid of the pump in your muscles. The reason it gets rid of the pump in your muscles is because your muscles don't have carbohydrates to be able to work hard enough to get pumped in the first place. And the reason I know that is because if you look at bodybuilding, what bodybuilders will tell you is that when they're trying to get a pump and work the muscles really, really hard as they can, they need to fuel up on carbs. When they're cutting and they're getting rid of their carbs, that's when they have the smallest pump in their muscles. However, the brutal thing that gets missed here is it sounds great. Oh, well, I'll just not eat carbs and I'll just eat fats and protein and I won't get the pump. The problem is the pump comes from the muscles working so hard that they can't go anymore. The reason that they don't get the pump when you cut out all of those carbs is because it's very hard to be able to push the muscle as hard as what it does with carbs. Carbs are like the rocket fuel for your muscles being able to work really hard, whereas fats are not. So that's a problem, right? So let's say, for example, you might be eating fats and you might be able to do 10 reps at a particular weight. And you're like, oh, I don't get arm pump. Cool. But if you did eat carbs, you might be able to do 20 reps with that same weight. And yes, you do get a pump, but you can do 20 reps. Your endurance is way better than what you would have when you're eating fats. So yes, it does get rid of the problem, but it doesn't help you in terms of endurance on the bike. You might not have arm pump, but you're going to feel like shit on the bike and not perform as well as what you could. The other one's technique, okay, riding technique. Again, we've talked about that already, but skills, right? You have to be able to have the skills on the bike for the conditions that you're riding. If you feel really uncomfortable on the bike or in the conditions that you're riding, like I was at the Nationals, riding at Macro with all these rutted tracks, it's not going to matter, okay? You can do absolutely everything else. Try all the devices is not going to help. The goal, you need to be able to get yourself relaxed on the bike, and the way that you get yourself relaxed is getting comfortable in those conditions. Go and get a riding coach to help you improve your technique. Go and watch some YouTube videos. Go and practice riding in those conditions a little bit more. The last one is grip strengthening exercises. Okay, so some riders will say, oh, well, arm pumps, just you're not strong enough, or your grip's not strong enough. Again, if we come back to our video here, right, the grip is not the thing that's doing most of the work. Again, look at the size of my forearm muscles. Look at the size of them, right? Look at those bad boys. And I'm going to get up on the chair once more for you guys because I want to illustrate my point here if I don't die. Look at the size of these bad boys. Look at the size of them, right? They're like this. They're massive, right? In comparison to these tiny little forearm muscles. There's no amount of forearm training that you can do that's going to help you to wrestle around a 200 kilo package, okay? A 90 kilo rider and a 110 kilo bike for 3 hours. There is no amount of grip strengthening exercises. Is it going to help? Yeah, it can help. But it's going to give you this much improvement in comparison to doing the real work and getting this much improvement and feeling a shit ton better on the bike overall. So some of the stuff that's come up over the years is it had like these gyro balls that works with a zip cable and then it helps you to do wrist circles. They're not going to alleviate your arm pump unless you've got a warming up problem. Okay, they can be great for building up general strength in your forearms and your wrists. If you had an injury before or a broken arm, these can be awesome. When I broke my arms, I used to have like a stress ball that I used to squeeze to help to keep the strength in my arms so I didn't lose it when I had the cast on. But I wouldn't be expecting too much from having one of these bad boys. Great for warming up your arms. The other one that comes up is these Captains of Crush gripper things that we've all seen before. Again, it's more grip strengthening exercises. The goal is not to have the strongest forearms or to have the strongest hands going into the races, okay? The goal is to be able to get, again, 80% of the load through the big parts of your body, 20% of the load through your arms. If you can do that, then happy days, okay? It's all about maintaining that ratio, and all of these gimmicks, all of these things that we're doing, all of the things that I've been through with you, even in this video, are all about trying to maintain that ratio so we can keep the load out of your arms and keep the load in the big muscle groups in your body. As always, it was a big video, this one. If you guys would like some help with this stuff, or you've got some races coming up and you're trying to get rid of your arm pump and you want to perform better, you might want some help. If you'd like some help, you can apply for my Faster Laps program. I'll put the link in the description below. Otherwise, happy racing.